first we'll give a bit of a Sievo intro. As mentioned, there's a lot of you online today, so we'll give that intro to those who aren't that familiar and a refresher for those who are. We'll then jump into what this whole agentic AI disruption is really about, impact on supply chain and procurement, and then we'll present obviously then also our approach to that. And then what would be a webinar with the CEO without some advice? So advice to procurement professionals.
Thanks, Heta. And I guess the next very few slides, I'll give Sievo intro. So now that we got your attention, we couldn't help, let's say, sharing who Sievo is also for the audience. So first of all, why we feel that we have, let's say, some competence to speak about AI in procurement is not so much about, let's say, our own innovation, that as well, but actually we have the privilege to discuss with some of the largest enterprises in the world. And here you see some of our logos who we help on the procurement analytics domain. And also with these clients, we of course get a lot of, let's say, interesting interactions, what's changing in procurement, but then also we have become a massive data processing company. So as of today, we process 2% of global GDP every year to help our clients make sense out of the procurement data with and without AI. Now, how this happens is basically we take full responsibility on processing our clients' data. So our clients outsource their dirty procurement data problems to us. So basically, our clients outsource the external data problems to us, internal data, external data as well. But the point I want to highlight that may be news to many of you, nowadays we also provide a lot of we call community data. So as we process this 2% of global GDP, we derive benchmarks, supplier discovery, price indexes out of that data and bring that data back to our clients. So we have become also a data provider company and help our clients to combine internal, external Sievo community data to basically not only do traditional analytics, but actually to surface insights out of that data and then drive different actions out of this data. And this is something that we've been doing for the past 20 years. And of course, in the beginning, it was without any AI. But then in 2019 already, we created this or wrote this book, AI in Procurement. And I'm very proud to say it has my name on the cover and it has my colleague's name, JP, is on the cover. But actually, Heta, who wrote this book in reality?
Back in 2019, I was a summer intern at the company, and that was one of the projects to kind of consolidate all this expertise and write the book. So my handwriting.
So Heta was AI expert already in 2019, but since then, of course, a lot has happened in AI. What has not changed is that Sievo is still the procurement AI leader in the space, also as recognized by Spend Matters. One of the themes of today is that a lot of analytics has been about dashboards, but the challenge with the dashboard is that it still requires a lot of human input to figure out what's important and find the insights and drive action. And we truly believe the AI is changing that already as of today. So if you look what Sievo does today, yes, we do dashboards, but we also provide these insights. So we have encapsulated a lot of procurement knowledge, procurement levers into our software, and we surface different kind of, let's say, action recommendations or insights. And then we help people to look at them and then also do something about these insights and actually take action, for example, launch negotiation bots and so forth. So one of the roles of the AI, as we'll discover later today, is close the data to action gap, surface insight, but then also drive actions. So that was very, very quick update on who Sievo is. And I'm handing over to Heta for the next section.
Yes, so let's then talk about AI. So I want to start with this study because I think this is super interesting. Somehow McKinsey back in 2017, so 8 years ago, launched this study with some leading AI researchers, experts, asking the question, when will AI reach human performance? And the answers ranged from 2015 to 2060, where the estimate was that, for instance, coordination with multiple agents would, in the top quartile, be the reality in 2047. So a long, long, long time ahead. And now the same question was asked 5 years later, so 2023. So when will AI reach human performance? And as you can see, the results are quite different. So just this huge acceleration, that coordination with multiple agents, it's no longer a 2050 thing, but it's actually a 2028 thing, really accelerating 15 years. It's a huge huge game changer. Now, particularly in what we're talking about today, so agentic AI is one key reason that all of this is happening so fast. And if we think about, okay, what is agentic AI? The main thing is that it has 4 key characteristics. You could define these in different ways, but I think it really boils down to these 4. So first of all, it has goal-oriented behavior. It's adaptable, it's proactive and autonomous, and it integrates to different online services. So if I take the example that I ask agentic AI, find savings for me. It has this goal. It knows that it needs to find savings. So what it then starts proactively doing, it starts going through for instance, my contracts, my emails, the web, for instance, McKinsey documents, how to find savings, etc. And it's adaptable. So when it can't, for instance, access my emails for those supplier emails, it starts going through my documentation if it can find a password. And it's proactive and autonomous in all of this. So I don't need to ask it, or it doesn't ask me for permission to do all of this. Do I access your email? Do I access your contracts? It does it proactively and autonomously. And then finally, it has all these integrations. So when it finds savings, it may then, for instance, notify me, notify a team member, already start discussing with the supplier, etc. So integrating with all these other different systems and services as well. And how we really got to agentic AI, I mean, it's a result of the evolution that we've been seeing, and I think everyone's somehow been a part of in the past years. So I think a lot of people around the world really got familiar with LLMs latest is when ChatGPT was launched some years ago. And this was basically prompt-based content creation. So you ask the model to, for instance, summarize a text from a single prompt. And then the LLM basically guesses what the response should be, guesses what the next words should be. It's prompt-based, it's useful, but it's not really smart yet. Now, what then came after that is reasoning models. So really a layered use of all these LLMs that can really not only answer to your question, for instance, summarize text, but break down a complex question. And an example of this is, for instance, the deep research mode by ChatGPT or by Gemini, which, by the way, has developed a lot in the past weeks and months. If you haven't tested it in the meantime. So basically, if you ask, for instance, the deep research mode by ChatGPT to, for instance, create me a category strategy, it's able to break down the complex question that, okay, in order for me to create a category strategy, I need to search the web, I need to look at your data, I need to look at this, blah, blah, blah. And they basically answer step by step autonomously. And that's why it can, in some ways, already be called agentic because it actually is doing this all proactively. But the one thing that's missing from these reasoning models is that it's integrated to all these other services. So that's where agentic AI really shows its power. So it's all these reasoning models integrated to online services. So for instance, if you create or ask the AI to create a category strategy, it automatically then gets an idea from that and does something for that. It, for instance, already starts executing the category strategy.
May I tell a story here?
Yeah.
So when the ChatGPT came along like a couple of years ago, I tested it and asked it to create a Christmas menu for me and my extended family. And it was very confident, but also the answer was very horribly wrong. So all of us would have gotten, like 10 kilos of food. And that's my kind of annual test. Every year I test how well the AI can create a Christmas menu for our extended family. Right. And now it's super good. But it's not yet integrated to online services, so I can't translate that to immediate order to my local, let's say, retail shop. And I'm pretty sure in 1 or 2 years that's going to be feasible. So I ask this menu, I modify it, and then I'm going to order the stuff from the LLM as well.
Yeah, and it may even order it for you without you asking it.
Yeah.
Even. Yeah, exactly. And I think this somehow evolution translates into this chains versus agents. So what previously was the prompt-based content creation, you give input, it's basically a template, summarize this text, for instance, and you get an output. But the main difference with agents is that before you get that response, you give the user input, sure, but the LLM, the large language model, it self-organizes. So it looks for all the data, does something, fixes, does something again, changes something, etc. So really self-organizes before giving you that response. Now, all of this is changing really, really fast. So I just wanted to highlight a few things that have happened in the past month, even in the past weeks. So first of all these innovative agentic AI capabilities out there, they're adopted extremely fast and extremely wide. So one example is this Swedish AI coding startup called Lovable, which we also use here in Sievo. It grew from 0 to like 10 million annual recurring revenue in 2 months. That's just insanely fast. So these really are adopted widely. But I think the more somehow important thing is that there's also a lot of joint innovation from even competitive companies happening. So for instance, just a month ago, Google announced it's this agent to agents, or A2A protocol, which basically enables for the future that agents talk to each other. And there's a lot of big companies, the Salesforces, Accentures of the world already joining this, really in the spirit that this will be the future, that agents will be talking to each other. And OpenAI has already joined it, Anthropic, so it's competitors, similar ones. So competitors are joining together to understand that this will be the future.
And I think one of the powers of the agents will be that they can speak with each other. They can speak with traditional software through APIs, but then they can also interact with humans. It's easy to find people who can have, let's say, fluent conversation human to human, but then the same people trying to, let's say, interface with the systems through API doesn't happen. So the agents have this flexibility to discuss with humans, traditional software APIs, and now also with other agents as well.
Exactly. I just wanted to link some good sites there if you are interested in this whole AI topic. If you're, I don't know, building something yourself, etc. On the business side, there's some links or sites there that I at least listen to if you're interested in finding more information on this. But I mean, this is all developing fast, and somehow this seems like this is the future, this is where everyone's going. But then somehow I find it interesting that there's still a lot of restrictions now for AI usage, especially with the large companies, and these are the companies that we work with. There was, for instance, this study by Wharton that you're seeing on the screen that, for instance, in companies with over $2 billion in annual revenue, 24% of the companies say that only some employees can use Gen AI, etc. So there's a lot of restrictions. I don't know, what do you think about this, Sammeli?
No, I think I think it's very natural that the larger the company, the more, let's say, restrictions there will be, because as you grow as a company, as you become a large enterprise, then you want to also manage the risk, because you will have tens of thousands of employees, and even if 99% would use it well, if there's a certain share that wouldn't use it well, you may risk the entire company at stage. So in that sense, I do understand that. Having said that, I do believe this is a huge disruption. And when there's a huge disruption going on, it's not the strongest that will survive. It's those ones that are most adaptable to the new environment. So I definitely would urge also the large enterprises to, let's say, figure out ways to embrace the AI for their benefit, both in terms of internal work effectiveness, how the people can work more effectively, but also how your services offering will change because of the AI. And also for us at the Sievo, it's pretty clear that AI will change how software is being provided for the user. So we also need to adapt and make sure that these stay relevant for the years and decades to come.
Exactly. But let's then head over to what this really means for supply chains and procurement.
Thanks, Heta. So I do believe AI is disruptive force, and I do believe it will change procurement and supply chains. And the biggest impact I'm foreseeing for procurement supply chain is around automated decision making, and I should also say automated actions. And I think they will complement human decision making. If you think of the decisions that we as procurement professionals take today, all of us need to prioritize ABC suppliers, ABC categories. We all know the classic sort of savings opportunity identification, ease of implementation versus value, and then you pick the right, let's say, decisions to be done, actions to be done. And in this context, the role that analytics has had is to help humans make better decisions. It's of course super valuable in that. But now that we get the AI powers to analytics decision making, what we will be seeing is automated decision making with agentic AI. It will automate and replace a lot of the human decision making, the simple decision making. But even more importantly, and in kind of creating more value, I see it is that it will expand decision making to long tail decisions. So there's a lot of, let's say, low value decisions that are not done today because the decision making and the action requires so much human input that when you look at the value versus cost equation, the business case is not there. But now if the decision making cost and supplier communication cost and actioning cost goes to zero because of better AI and agentic AI specifically, then that means that you can actually act on all of these long tail of decisions and opportunities. In some ways, I see that the era of prioritization is over. With these new kind of tools, you can actually act all of your spend, all categories, all suppliers, all locations. And I also believe that, let's say, one of the key levers for procurement has always been, let's say, the supplier consolidation. And one of the reasons for supply consolidation has been that you basically can, let's say, reduce the supplier and process costs. But now again, if the process cost goes to zero, you can have as many suppliers as you want, at least from the process cost point of view. But it's not only, let's say, addressing the long tail more effectively, it's also enabling urgent decisions at scale. As we've learned the hard way, I guess, in the last few years, is that the world has become a very volatile, unpredictable place, and especially the, let's say, world of supply chains. And I don't believe you can really forecast what's going to happen to the supply chains. But what I do believe is that you can build a capability to react super quickly when something sort of odd happens. And for me, this quick reaction capability also means that you can't trust on humans only because we are slow and we need to sleep on it and give webinars even. But software and automated decision making will be 24/7 available for companies. And as mentioned, the agentic AI will be driving action. So there's two components. There's, let's say, deciding what to do. That's kind of traditional AI, traditional software, traditional rules. And there's the agentic AI, let's say, drive actions and close data to action gap. Now, this is kind of a bit of conceptual. So let me try to deep dive how I see and how we see the decision making is going to happen in the future. And here I'm giving examples on how to manage suppliers, and you have your strategic suppliers, core suppliers, tail suppliers, sort of distinction here. You could think of categories in the same way, opportunities, risks, and whatnot. I do believe that also for the foreseeable future, next 5-10 years, for the key strategic decisions, the AI's role is to enhance human decision making. For example, your supplier risk score has exceeded the threshold you defined. Would you like me to notify the procurement team in Microsoft Teams so you can take action? In this case, AI is looking at internal data, external data, finding something worrying, knows its strategic supplier, so the AI shouldn't take action itself, but sort of escalates the issue for human in control decision making. For the core suppliers, I think the level of automation will be going, let's say, a bit further. We still want to have the human in the loop, but the AI is, let's say, more proposing course of action. Supplier X has a lot of payment term inside this month. Would you like me to send an email to this supplier? And then human can say yes or no. And finally, for the tail suppliers, probably the largest number of the suppliers, but small part of spend perhaps, the role of the AI is really to automate the actions and basically come back to you and say, in past week, I've negotiated 200 suppliers. I've received 5 million in savings, and I already updated the initiative to complete it. And the role of procurement is very much to define where and how they want to apply the AI, supporting automation at the other end. Now, with this taking place, I do believe the supply chains will become transparent, agile, and autonomous. Now let's deep dive into those three concepts. I do believe there will be a completely new level of transparency on the supply chains. Until today, how much we understand of our supply chain has been very much limited by our, let's say, cognitive capabilities that we have as a humans, but also the time that we can allocate to study certain part of the supply chain and suppliers and situation in the supply chain. Now, if the information collection cost goes to zero, information combination cost goes to zero, you can basically understand your entire supply chain almost in a real time. And let me give you a couple of examples. I do believe that cost benchmarking will become constant. You will get new feeds on prices, price development on all of your category suppliers reaching in constant time. They will be compared to your internal pricing, and new opportunities will be emerging. I do believe that we are not very far from a position where all of your suppliers, tier 2 suppliers, the production locations are known, and there's a close to real-time satellite surveillance of all of those, let's say, production locations. So if there's an earthquake, for example, somewhere, you can immediately get AI-based, let's say, conclusions on what is the state of your supply chain after this sort of event. Also, all the emails that you are having with suppliers, all the interactions in teams, they are data as well, and you can continuously analyze the supplier sentiment based on all of this data. So you're not going to send an annual supplier satisfaction survey, but you are going to get real-time visibility on your supplier sentiments. It's said that in warfare, now that you have drones, suddenly the whole battlefield has become super transparent. Everybody knows where other parties' troops are because there's this transparency. In a similar way, I do believe AI is going to bring completely new level of transparency to supply chains and procurement. Secondly, I sort of mentioned this already, a lot of procurement has been built on calendar-based events. There's an annual category strategy. There's a quarterly business review meetings with the suppliers. There's monthly market analysis report and so forth. And they have been calendar-based because that's the way for us to limit the amount of effort that we need to put as humans to actually execute all of that. Now, again, if you can automate 99% of the actions, you can run all of that every day. So basically, we are going to a world which is much more agile and based on continuous optimization. When something happens, there's an earthquake, market price goes up, tariffs come place between certain countries, you re-optimize it every day, basically. And thirdly, and the first two ones, I think that they will be easy or easier for us as humans to accept and adapt. But I think there'll be a substantial part of the, let's say, supply chain interactions that will become autonomous. We are going from human to human interactions to human to bot interactions, and finally to bot interactions and discuss as well, so that we can quickly react to various needs, drive down interaction costs. A lot of the interactions between companies and their suppliers are still very much, let's say, human-based as of today, and because they are human-based, they are very expensive. But with this automation, we can drive down those interaction costs. Well, that was quite a mouthful. So, Heta, any reflections?
Yeah, no, it's a lot. And I think it's exactly like you said, that the autonomous thing, that will take a while for us to adopt. But I was thinking about all of this now in the whole tariff situation, when we've been also discussing with our customers, and everyone's doing it on their own, figuring out their situation with the tariffs and the impact.
Yeah.
That will not be the case in 2 years from now. Yeah. Big changes. But there's a lot of change, and there's obviously a lot of change also in Sievo. So love to share a bit on our approach to agentic AI.
Yeah. Please do. I also see questions in the chat. Let's answer them towards the end of the presentation. So
yeah,
just go ahead.
Coming. Yeah. So Sievo's approach to agentic AI. Now, I want to start with this. AI is only as good as the data is trained on. You've probably seen this from some tests you had, maybe some models early that you've used. That is the reality. And Sievo AI is trained on 2% of the global GDP annually. It's a huge amount of data that we have that really works as the backbone for all of what I'm going to talk about. I think this is crucial to state at this point. Now, how we see that AI changes procurement analytics particularly is in three fundamental ways. The first thing is something that we've already been doing for years. So crunching data. So crunching more data, crunching it faster. So this really relates to, what was once a manual effort and maybe therefore applied to a small portion of spent data, for instance, is really just now scaled to 100% more accurate. For instance, if you used to harmonize a certain part of your key materials, now you just, with a click of a button, harmonize all of your materials so that all the different steel sheets written in different ways and different formats are all steel sheets. Now, how this is visible in Sievo's product already today is through spend classification, so categorizing the different spend, supplier normalization, so different DHL grouped into DHL, for instance, harmonizing the materials, getting, for instance, supplier data like revenue information, sustainability information, etc., from ChatGPT. So basically just automating the data piece.
And I think that's a kind of great example. Also in the past, if it's a public company, you could go and figure out the revenue. Even if it's a private company, you can somehow estimate it at the ballpark, but it did require, let's say, human effort. But now with this kind of tools, we can bring that information for all of your suppliers on an automated basis.
Exactly. Let's say there's a merger or an acquisition, you have it the next day. Then the next piece that kind of is built on crunching data is interacting with the data. So as somebody mentioned in the beginning, what used to be manually digging through dashboards is now replaced by, for instance, chatbots that really enable you to find insights easier and at scale. And I'll demo this Sievo IQ chatbot in the end as well. And then finally, really related to agentic AI particularly, so taking actions, as we've been talking about, so driving more decisions faster. I think it's really not so much about just like making better decisions and taking better actions, but just driving more of them faster at scale. And I'll also demo this in the end. But I guess the agentic AI, kind of the main value of it really relates to interacting with data is changing and taking actions is changing, but the data piece has to be in order as the backbone for all of that. But now, before showing a demo and I think really translating it into what this really means for what you're working on today is how we really orchestrate procurement decisions. Now, if we think of the current human-centric view, and you can verify me if this is true for your case, but on a generalized view, it looks something like this. So you have your transactional systems, ERPs, P2Ps, you have your process systems, and the data from these flow into traditional analytics, be it in Sievo, a dashboard, or be it in your Power BI or an Excel. And the humans, or us humans, I talk about us, we're like aliens. Us humans.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, exactly. Us humans use analytics to make informed decisions, make better decisions, find insights from the data, and, for instance, discuss with suppliers, and then execute decisions through various systems, various people. You contact a different function, you update your sourcing systems, etc., etc. So this is in a way the current human-centric way. And parts of this, or this will still remain when we move to the procurement decision orchestration becoming central. So you have your central analytic system. Note that now the dashboard has been changed to the procurement decision orchestration center. And similarly, you still have the line to the human, you have the line to the supplier. This will still remain.
And I guess for the strategic suppliers, for example,
exactly,
this will remain. Yeah.
This will still remain. But then in addition to this, and especially indeed for instance, the tail suppliers, you have the AI. So AI even automatically, or then with your human input, negotiating directly with the supplier, and then even feeding that back into the system. So let's say there's a supplier negotiation and then there's a new contract that needs to be made or whatever. And updates that into your contract system, updates that into your central system. And then obviously not all decisions even need the supplier, not all actions need the supplier. So there's, I don't know, data change or material change that needs to be done or updated, new insight found from that. Doing that automatically then in the various systems and processes that you have. So I think this really fundamentally changes things.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think also what will change, which is sort of indicated by the number of arrows increasing as well, that the number of interactions with different players in the supply chain has drastically exploded as the cost of those interactions sort of will go down. And in some ways, I find it interesting that even without AI, somehow the sales and marketing people have figured this out. A lot of their, let's say, reach out to clients and potential clients is very much automated. But as procurement, we have been, let's say, much more on manual basis about communicating with suppliers and negotiating with suppliers. So I think this kind of buyer-supplier relationship will look very different 5 years from now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking at some people can't see the slides.
Yeah, but I think it's just a few people and
Okay.
they refresh, so
Okay.
we'll get going.
Good. But indeed, really drastically just reduces the cost and speed of the execution. And this is then really related to Sievo as well, because what is happening this month, so in the next weeks, we are launching our Sievo IQ to really orchestrate your procurement decisions with AI speed, human understanding, and I'll show this to you in a second.
I love this AI speed and human understanding.
I know, right? Marketing was really good with that.
Yeah.
If you are a current customer of ours, you should be receiving information in the coming days and weeks about this. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. But I think it's always nice to just really see it with your own eyes. So let's get into it. I'll show you how it looks like in real life. So we're here now in the Sievo Devo environment, and I'm a category manager from Harvest Foods, a food conglomerate. And what I see on the left-hand side, I could look at all these different dashboards and analyze my different data manually, but I'm in a hurry. I'm now preparing for a supplier negotiation, so I don't have time for that. So I'm going to ask Sievo IQ help. I'm meeting with PepsiCo, my key supplier, in an hour. And we're going to be negotiating about oatmeal. So how much did I pay for oatmeal last year? I don't want to do the analysis on my own. So break down the price averages by quarter to me. I send it to the Sievo IQ, and it tells me what it's doing. It's analyzing data, it's selecting the data source, and I get a response. It looks like I spent with them in Q1, Q2, the average price decreased a little bit. And already there I can see that it did some data interpretation for me, that it also included things such as oat. So, okay, based on this information, please now create me a negotiation strategy. I just need 5 steps to really help me get better prices with PepsiCo. And let's see what response I get. So it's analyzing the message. I could get a quick sip of coffee, and then there we know it. We have our 5-step negotiation strategy that I can then use with PepsiCo, my key supplier. And it's really all quite automatic. Now, this is something that I could use for my key strategic suppliers like PepsiCo. This is helping me get to the data and answers that I want quicker. It is helping my work. It's automating part of it, but it's not really drastically taking away my work or drastically changing my life. So I want to show you how that will change then with for instance, my tailspin suppliers. So let's go into the Insights Hub to find more information. And Insights is really where all of our product development culminates. So all the data we've crunched, all the AI-enabled recommendations, all in one place, so that I don't have to manually crunch through the data. And now what the system automatically should then detect there is that I was asking around about PepsiCo, so it suggests that I already see the insights for PepsiCo, the supplier, and there seems to be some recommended insights for oatmeal, actually. I didn't
know PepsiCo does oatmeal.
Yeah, there you go. And there you go. Then I have even more opportunities if I want to look at the big picture. So 400 million euros in opportunities, all my suppliers, including PepsiCo's oatmeal. For all of the different types of insights, so cost savings, risk, and now there seems to be a lot of payment term consolidation. So I want to find a supplier that's not so strategic to me, something that I really wouldn't have time myself to negotiate with. So I selected Lindy Group. This is a supplier I wouldn't have weekly or even monthly discussions with. And it seems from the AI recommended insight that there were 12 different types of payment terms for a lending group, which doesn't make sense in my business. So there's a payment term consolidation opportunity, and I can see the different details. I can try and kind of see if this data makes sense. It seems to check out, seems that this is the correct suppliers there, or correct ERP suppliers there. And I can now contact the supplier. Generative AI has created me an email that I could now automatically send without needing to write it directly to the supplier. But even this is too much work. I want to focus on.
You're lazy.
I am very lazy. I want to focus on my key suppliers. I could launch an initiative.
You are too lazy for that.
Yeah, too lazy for that. We could work on this with the team, but we have more important fish to fry, so we won't do that. I want to launch a NegoBot. And this taking me from my current 61 days to the AI recommended 74 days. I press then create negotiation, and I let AI handle the rest. And I can now then start looking at my key strategic suppliers and let AI handle this. And how this integration works, we have an integration with Pactum. It's an AI startup. What you can see there, the ready means that the negotiation has started. Now that will take some time. It can take weeks for the supplier then to actually have the discussion with the bot. And then when the discussion is done for the payment term consolidation, I get a notification and I can then report back to my boss that I got 59K in payment term consolidation. So really showing how I can utilize Agentic AI to help me with my key strategic suppliers, but then also really fully automate what I don't have time for myself. It's exciting.
It is exciting. Even myself looking at the demo, I feel like how far we've come in the last couple of years.
Exactly.
But looking at the clock also, let's take some advice for procurement professionals in the next few minutes. Now, as we stated in the beginning, AI is only as good as data it's trained on. And these AI companies, like the fundamental model companies like OpenAI and so forth, they will develop the models, and that's not the business where we or probably anybody in the audience should be. The models will develop super fast. Then, of course, there's going to be a lot of players like Sievo who figured out how to apply the AI to certain, let's say, use case, in our case, procurement analytics. And even there, I would argue it's companies like Sievo who are, let's say, best positioned to do that. That doesn't mean that there wouldn't be a role for, let's say, large enterprises. And I think the key message I have here is that you need to think through your data strategy. What is your data strategy so that you can actually leverage the AI in your business? And for me, it starts by, let's say, being smart about what you actually mean by the data, because here on the vertical axis you have structured and unstructured data. In the past, analytics tools, be it Excel or Sievo or Power BI, they were able to manage only the structured data. So we did require, let's say, humans to make sense of the unstructured data. But now with the LLMs, that has changed a lot. And then, of course, there's internal data in your systems, your own data, versus the external data that you have. And for each different corner of this, I think there's, let's say, different kind of data. For the top left-hand corner, there's the kind of structured internal data, purchase order invoices, master data, and so forth. Bottom left, there's contract documentation, specifications, RFX answers, but also, for example, supplier emails, Teams calls, transcripts, and so forth. For example, at Sievo, we start to, let's say, document all of our interactions with our suppliers and customers and capture that kind of written material so that we can drive insights out of that data. Then there's the external structured data and external unstructured data. Now, when people speak about analytics, it used to be a lot about the top left-hand corner, and that's where Sievo started. How do you classify spend data and so forth? But now we need to expand the definition of the very data. Anything that's external is now accessible pretty much for everybody at a very low cost, because anything that's on internet can be now, let's say, captured and structured and processed by LLMs in a completely new, different ways. So when you think of the data, all the external data will be provided you by providers like Sievo and other providers who will make sense of this external world. So I would say this external data will be very much available to you already now and in the few years to come. But this bottom left-hand corner is what I want to highlight. This is data unique to your company. And if you have that data only hidden in people's own private emails, if you have that data not captured at all because it's kind of this kind of, let's say, person-to-person interactions, you are missing out. So my advice is that you need to figure out how do you capture and store this data and how you feed that data to large language models so that you can also make sense of all of this unstructured internal data. That's really an area where we are going to see most innovation and most options to creating competitive advantage in the next couple of years. So overall, I have four advice. As I mentioned in the previous slide, everything is data. The emails is data. Teams meetings are data. RFP responses are data. Contract specifications are data. You need to capture this internal unstructured data and make it available to AI models and software. As humans, we've always loved to actually have the in-person meetings because it feels good to us to meet another human person in person. But that's worst kind of meeting nowadays because you can't capture the interaction we had as a transcript and feed it to LLMs. So we need to capture this data. Secondly, and I hate to say this, but this is happening, procurement knowledge will become commodity. Earlier, it took years of experience to really understand the category of supplier market. And that was, let's say, one of the core competence of seasoned procurement category managers. Now I can go, and you should do this, I can go to ChatGPT or something like that, state that I'm, for example, category manager responsible for flexible packaging material in Eastern Europe, and please provide me an overview of that market, key players, and so on. And the answer is not going to be perfect, but it's going to be very good. I've tested that in my own specialty, the procurement analytics domain. And if I ask these questions, I get very good answers. I still want to claim my own answer would be better, but that's not the point. The point is that I would anyways have time to kind of create that answer to new Sievonian who's joining us, but I can tell new Sievonian to use ChatGPT and figure out what's important in SaaS business and how the procurement world works. So my advice would be that please embrace LLMs to onboard, learn, teach, challenge, communicate the generic procurement knowledge. Anything that's out there in the internet is now available for everybody. The build or buy dilemma is more valid than ever. Now that AI has become such a strategic force, there's an almost intuition by all of us. Okay, now it's so strategic, we need to build our own internal AI tools. And also here at Sievo, I need to go to people and say, AI can be applied to many of the problems, but we should apply in Sievo or develop tools only which is very core and specific to our business. Anything else, be that, let's say, meeting transcripts, be that, let's say, customer sentiment analysis, supplier sentiment analysis, that will be developed by somebody else for whom it's kind of core problem. So think of the build or buy dilemma also in AI, and this applies to data as well. So, for example, material master data, I think that's something you need to maintain yourself. It's very specific to your company. But all the vendor data, all the supplier data, it's generic. It's the same data for all companies by and large. So that's a data set that you should be buying and not trying to, let's say, maintain yourself. So sorry to hear that your 5 million euro investment in vendor master harmonization is wasted money, but that's the case. And as we mentioned earlier, automate decisions and actions that are not done today. Yes, AI can reduce the cost of operating and, let's say, replace human work in some cases, but actually the real value is unlocking the long tail, what's currently not prioritized. Let AI do at least that. That's all we had to say now. Here are our LinkedIn sort of code, so you can put on your camera, take a picture. We are happy to be connected on the LinkedIn. You also will have an opportunity to download the Sievo IQ one pager in the end. And now we will be also answering the questions in the chat. It seems based on data, most people did hang out for the entire duration of the stuff. So thanks for that. You can download the document on the platform too. Let's take a look at the questions. I'm getting so old, I need to take out my glasses to actually see this.
There's a good amount of
there's a lot of questions here. We'll be very specific question from a Sievo client, I believe. Will Sievo IQ be able to use data from all modules in Sievo, even customized ones?
Yeah, it will. In the very first release, it'll be spent, but the idea is that indeed all the Sievo knowledge will be there. Yes.
Next question from Faye. Will supplier know that it is a chatbot? I think supplier definitely should know it's a chatbot. And actually, there's interesting studies. It turns out that suppliers most often prefer to discuss with chatbot than a human. Yes, you get instant answers, they are endlessly patient and so forth. So I think, yes, suppliers should know, but I think they will love it. This is for you, Heta. How mature advanced does the master data and internal procurement data need to be to run the solution?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, as mentioned, that we do a lot of the data crunching. So, I mean, it needs to be, I'm trying not to share slides. It needs to be mature in the end, but I mean, that's what we help with.
Yeah, that's our business. We are so happy that companies' internal data is not perfect, because that's why we are in the business. How will the supplier get the information about this negotiation with the bot?
So in the Pactum example specifically, there's kind of going to be an email kind of link to the portal then that the supplier can negotiate with.
Okay, let me scroll further. What are the risks with automated negotiations, such as loss of supply or loss of supplier? Yeah, let me tell you this. There's this accountability question, and as humans, it's interesting. As humans, we've used to accept the mistakes of other human beings. So if Heta makes a mistake, she never does. But in theoretical situation, I most probably would just accept that that's the nature. But if the bot makes the mistake or AI makes the mistake, we feel that somehow should prevent us from using that. And previously, actually, I thought this is very frustrating, because if the AI is better, then we should outsource everything to the AI. Now I'm more looking at this, let's say, design challenge. How do we design systems that people want to embrace, even if they are not perfect? Most likely they need to be 10x better than humans, but they still will not be perfect. And we need to teach ourselves to accept that fact as well. Then at the end of the day, already now I would claim the AI does better decisions than most of humans in most domains. So unless you embrace them, even if they are imperfect, you will be out of the business soon.
Yeah, same with like self-driving cars. If they make one mistake, then everyone's like, no, stop this.
Exactly. But then if my neighbor drives car under alcohol and kills 5 people, it's nothing. No, it's not nothing. Yeah, sorry about
I
that.
know what you mean. There was one question about the Sievo Copilot, if it's related to Microsoft. That's just a name, so it's no affiliate with Microsoft Copilot per se. There's a question also about how the Sievo Copilot will fit in Google's HA framework or other similar, and how it'll interact with other systems working in procurement. So that's exactly the idea, that whenever there will be these agent to agent kind of frameworks in the future, that our agent will then also connect to those. I think that will need to be the future. So that's exactly what's the plan.
There's an interesting question from somebody called Jarno. So thanks, Jarno, for that. Sort of the question is sort of when the AI will become accessible not only for the large enterprises, but for smaller businesses, let's say, who have to spend 50 to 200 million or so. And actually, sort of, it's interesting for me, because if I look at the kind of startups and really small companies, at least in tech space, I think they are embracing the AI super quickly. And then if I look at the large enterprises, they are running these AI pilots, but there indeed seems to be this, let's say, valley of death in the mid-sized companies, how to embrace them. Again, I would go back to my advice. If it's a problem that's not specific to your business, but it's a generic problem, there will be players, existing players, new players, who will solve those also for the mid-market. So just wait 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and the solutions will come. And probably there's many already there. What is the risk of disclosure of other suppliers' information during negotiation?
Yeah, I think this is just a similar question to how any company nowadays, in a way, ensures data privacy. I think the same data privacy will need to be ensured also in AI to AI negotiations.
And also when we deploy the AI, we kind of create customer specific models. So
Yeah.
we don't have models that would contain all the data from all the clients, indeed, just to make sure that there's no leakage risk at all. But I think we've used 55 minutes of your time. So thank you for all of that. I think we are about to call it a wrap at this point. Any final comments, Heta?
Ooh, big pressure. I think the questions also, and also what we talked about today, ensures that it is really a huge topic that will change the world. So looking forward to all the future stuff. How about
Likewise.
for you?
No, I think I'm super excited. I've been 20 years in this space, and sometimes I feel that I've seen it all, and there's nothing new and surprising. And now, what a time to be alive! There's such a great opportunity for disruption, and let's embrace that.
Indeed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. You'll be receiving the slides and everything later on. So thank you.
Bye.